Surrender! You criminals!
The United Underworld is broke!
Oh, what's this? An apparition?
Batman showcased the world's greatest rogues gallery of supervillains ever created. And they found some spectacular actors to fill those various roles and bring them to life. And for a comic book fan, that was so cool to see that happening.
Clearly, all the actors were having an amazing time. And when you put 4 of them together in a movie, with them chewing away, it's a miracle there was any scenery left at the end of the filming.
You, the dynamic duo, has been silenced forever.
It was easy to play a Batman villain. I mean, you brought in actors like Frank Gorshin or Burgess Meredith and Cesar Romero and told them to go over the top, and they did, and then they went further and further and further. But they couldn't have got away with it if Adam West hadn't gone along with it.
You filthy criminals.
The villains for me were the most interesting characters. I like Batman and Robin, but I already knew them really well, so learning more about the Riddler or Catwoman or what they were trying to do and their crazy plans, it somehow made sense back then.
Perfect, Riddler. Perfect.
Those villains were the ones that got us hopping up and down and excited, and they weren't scary back then. They were just exciting to see and interesting, and they were funny, too.
Keeps the gloom away.
Out of any of the villains, the Joker was the most like the comic book because he could be crazy, psychotic, but he still has that laughter about him. And Cesar Romero had the same kind of edge and same kind of thing. He wasn't as spooky as the Joker can be nowadays, but he still captured that madness.
Oh, well, pip to you, sir. And if you wish anything further, just ring.
Joker was supposed to be crazy, but the Joker back in the 60s was not so much crazy. He was just a big clown. But Caesar pulled the whole thing off because he played the character as if the makeup didn't exist. It was his character who loved to have fun. He was always my favorite among the original 4 main villains.
That's really a first case where we're putting a celebrity in this role, and you're going to see a little more of the celebrity than the character, but he put himself into it. Cesar Romero was one of the most loyal of the Batman villains. I think he was on every season. He's in the movie. He seemed to be on call to play the Joker whenever they wanted him.
I think people that don't know who he is, when you actually go back, he's tremendous long history in Hollywood and kind of this dashing leading man type. And I think that was what was the fun of it, is seeing actors just having fun themselves.
He always was suave and debonair and all this, and then to play the Joker was brilliant casting, and it showed the range of his talent because he threw himself into it and loved all the jokes and loved all the things that he had to do, and the maniacal laugh and all was just wonderful. He was great fun.
Being Batman's arch nemesis and the most popular villain created in the entire mythos of pretty much all supervillains. The Joker was given a certain special life by Romero by the fact that he was this very impressive man himself, that his laugh was dead on, the laugh of the character.
I love the Joker, and he had that great laugh, which Jack Nicholson obviously built off of, and I think everybody since then, he really brought the Joker to life for a lot of people.
Our joke's on you!
I was torn with the interpretation of the Joker by Cesar Romero. Here was a guy who looked like the Joker, had a great laugh, was over the top like the Joker, wasn't quite as horrifically bad as the Joker. But again, if you think about the pre-64 comics in particular, he was really reflecting what was in the pages of the comic books. What I couldn't swallow was the fact that there was his mustache underneath the makeup.
I remember someone remarking, why did he just shave the mustache off? Because he always had the makeup, the Joker makeup.
The mustache drove me crazy. Every time I saw him, I said, great performance, he's terrific, what a spectacular actor. The mustache. Mustache.
My brother and I would always be like, why does he have that mustache and he covered up with white makeup? Because the Joker didn't have a mustache in the comics. And we learned like years later, I read somewhere that he just refused to shave his mustache.
We can laugh at it years later and understand that that's hysterical, that he chose not to shave his mustache for the part. But it just adds more to the overall bizarreness and fun of it.
The fact that he was like 6.5 feet tall helped a lot too. That helped give him a sense of menace to this clown, because he's still, as giggly and goofy as he is, he's the biggest thing on the screen at that point. He's taller than Adam West, who is not a small man.
I think Cesar Romero is kind of fun as the Joker, but really the film is about Frank Gorshin and Burgess Meredith. They are people who are 100% engaged in what they are doing.
My fine pinioned pirates, we're approaching the tricky boy. Sharpen your cutlasses. There may be skullduggery ahead.
Penguin and Joker were always the two main favorites. In fact, they wrote the movie around the Penguin. It was the Penguin's sub, it was the Penguin's henchman, it was the Penguin's everything. For most of the picture, the Penguin was in charge of things, and he always seemed to have the most fun with it.
Burgess Meredith is the Penguin. I really think that he made that role. He looks nothing like or talks nothing like this character of the Penguin. He really is the character in the comic book, personified. His little waddle and his makeup is just perfect. The costuming is perfect.
Burgess, of course, had to wear padding when he played the Penguin, and the nose. It was not an easy transformation, but the minute he was into the costume, he was able to just switch it on and switch it off.
Let us feast our eyes on the watery remains.
Burgess Meredith defined the Penguin. He still defines the Penguin for me because he invented that squawk, the walk, 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 which they still use in comics, which I think is fantastic, just because it's so ingrained in people's head. That's what you remember about the Penguin. You don't even really remember that he had umbrellas, there were machine guns, and he loved birds and stuff. You really just remember that waddle and that walking, and he had that huge cigarette holder. But I think he was the best take on the villain.
I think the look, the way he exuded that particular attitude, made the Penguin one of the supervillains who literally and masterfully was lifted from the pages of the comic book right onto the movie screen.
4 passing porpoises which intercept torpedoes. There ought to be a piscatorial statute.
I thought it was a spectacular job of interpreting a character. And that, you would think, would be the toughest character to try to successfully do, the Penguin. There were so many twists and turns and oddities to that character. It is so pure comic booky, yet that's the character that perhaps was interpreted the best of all the villains.
The original choice for the Penguin was Mickey Rooney. Now, Mickey Rooney wanted to do it, and it was a scheduling conflict. But looking back on it, Mickey Rooney is a very fine actor, but to see him as the Penguin, having half the scene Burgess Meredith doing the Penguin, I couldn't see that. If we had never seen Burgess Meredith do the Penguin, he might have pulled it off. I don't know. Burgess was, to me, and it still is, the Penguin.
I know the perfect victim. I know the perfect victim. I know the perfect Bruce Wayne.
Everyone will agree that Frank Gorshin, I mean, that was his star-making role. I mean, he was an impressionist, and he had been on the Ed Sullivan Show and many TV shows and guest appearances, but this was a breakout character for this guy, and he really made the character his own. He was not a big-name star, but he really created a character there, an insane, wild character that certainly influenced the Jim Carrey performance in the later Batman movies.
And nothing to link us with the crime.
He left an indelible mark on anybody who saw him. He was the template for all the villains to come. He was his own unique thing. That was what was great. All the villains were unique, and all the personalities that filled them did a really good job.
So I think Frank Gorshin really, his Riddler just became kind of classic, and the fact that he started off the series in the first episode with the Riddler, I think really set the tone.
Frank Gorshin had clearly a unique laugh. You know, that I had never heard anything like that. And his delivery of the lines.
Waiting for us to put it to more universal use.
The way he would say stuff, it was menacing and humorous at the same time. And yet, you can see there's a comic edge to each character.
His laugh, the maniacal sense that he brought to the character, the cleverness of it was, I think, really, really captured tremendously well by Gorshin.
You got the idea that he wasn't just playing at camp, that there was a bit of almost like Jimmy Cagney white heat madness behind what he was doing. Even though he was wearing the funny suits and he was running around cackling and everything, there was just sort of a sharpness that would creep into his tone of voice every once in a while that could tell you, yeah, this guy could be a killer. This guy is really pretty unhinged.
Oh, outwitting Batman is my sole delight, my joy, my heaven on earth, my very paradise.
Frank Gorshin's interpretation of the Riddler is probably the most dramatic turn as far as contributing so much to the comic book lore. The Riddler character had not appeared that many times in comics before he appeared in the TV series and subsequently became part of the conclave of most important villains in Batman's universe, which the movie comprises the four main, most well-known villains. So the Riddler rose up in the ranks as being a superstar villain character, which he would remain as for the rest of his years to come. And the maniacal quality that Frank gave the character may have borrowed heavily from things that we would normally attribute to the Joker, the maniacal laugh, the sort of bouncing off the wall aspect of him, but his physicality for being in great shape for the part, to wear that leotard, or as the show introduced, the more full-suited version of the Riddler, just a brilliant performance.
The trigger? One of my riddles, of course. And the bait? You, Catwoman.
I loved playing Catwoman. I found her challenging, and just moving around in the Catwoman's outfit was challenging. I can sit in my skin. I had a hard time sitting in that costume. It was made of some kind of black tinsel strength lurex, you know, just with almost no give, and I know I had to have been zippered in, but I have no idea where the zipper was.
Catwoman had not been around in comics for many years. DC Comics cut Catwoman out of the Batman saga beginning in around the mid-50s, when the Comics Code Authority came in and comic books had been under attack by Dr. Frederick Wertham in his book Seduction of the Innocent. They were afraid of showing females with any kind of exaggerated physical characteristics who would be perceived to be bad girls. There was even an attempt to make Catwoman into a heroic character, but DC retired her for a good long time, just afraid that her appearance could bring down the wrath of a Frederick Wertham or parents' groups. It was only as a result of her successfully being accepted by everybody through the TV series and the movie that they wound up bringing her back.
Lee Merriweather as Catwoman, my first love, without question.
Catwoman was, I think, as a kid too, it's your first experience of a woman dressed in leather. You don't really forget it.
Lee Merriweather does a fantastic job of portraying Catwoman.
Sitting like fat birds in a tree, just waiting to be snatched. And you bungled it again. Again, the dynamic duo escaped our trap.
It's a more straightforward, smart Catwoman, as opposed to that sultry, seductive Julie Newmar interpretation of Catwoman.
She stepped into the role because Julie Newmar was busy, and that role suddenly became available. I think Lee Merriweather did a great job with it. She was utterly convincing as Miss Kitka, the Russian journalist for the Russian Moscow Bugle. And I bought it.
You there, Miss?
Comrade Katanya Irenia Tatanya Karenska Alisov. I am from the Moscow Bugle.
I really, literally had to learn it in 5 minutes. And I did it one take. I still, to this day, do not know where that came from. Katanya Irenia Tatanya Karenska Alisov. Of course, I've never forgotten it since.
May I be of service?
If you please, to take off the mask, to give the better picture.
Great Scott, Batman, take off his mask. The woman must be mad.
But she was beautiful, and that's one of the most important things about Catwoman. She's got to be alluring, she has to be enticing, she has to be sexy, and she pulled that off.
People always have their specific favorites about which Catwoman they liked, and over the course of the series there was 3, and Lee, she was perfect for the part. In fact, in many ways, artistically, I could see her graphically fitting the character in so many ways more. She had distinctly black hair, which the character did in the comics. Her face type is probably much more attributed to the art style of the comics, and she did all the things that the character was specific to do in terms of, you know, having this sort of characterization, sex appeal.
Blindfold the captive. Lead him down the labyrinthine path to chamber 17.
Because I am a cat person, I know how they move, how they react, all of that. So I tried to incorporate that as much as possible, plus which I had studied in New York with Lee Strasberg and had studied the method and done animal exercises. And it's funny because I never did a cat exercise, I only did a turtle. I don't know, the turtle never helped.
Catwoman, probably in this, in the movie more than in the series, she's looked upon as a potential love interest for Bruce Wayne, because as Miss Kitka, she and Bruce have that romantic scene together. So there is a little bit of intensity there. Although I had to ask myself, Batman's got to be a pretty big dope if you can't see. That's really Catwoman. Okay, I know it's another actress this time playing Catwoman, but it's still Catwoman. I mean, you should know that.
Oh, it's like a dream, Pinky Sweet. Nothing can stop us now.